well, this is the JCRC Stage 5 Tour of Japan. This is located at Lake Saiko, which is at the base of Mount Fuji, just to the northwest. This is my first race in the JCRC series. I am currently in the X class, which is an open class. Open class is basically for new riders like myself to get some experience as well as get placed into a higher class. So when I finish this race, depending on how well I do, the JCRC organization will place me in a class. They have double S all the way down to F, F being the easiest. This being my first race, I was definitely very nervous. Within the first few kilometers, I had no idea what to expect. Talking with some of the guys from my bike club, they were saying that the X class is a class that is filled with crashes. Nobody here really knows what they're doing. They don't really know how to ride in a large peloton. This group of riders was about 60 people. This is, for the most part, this is all our first time riding with one cyclist on our right, another on our left, and there's only a space of a few inches in between us. At the same time, we're going really fast, about 40 to 45 kilometers an hour. And on top of that, the roads are wet here in the shade. Other parts of the course are dry just because it's been dried out by the sun, but it's a cold November morning and it's wet on the road. Currently, I'm at the very back of the peloton. I was unlucky at the start and was placed at the very back. I was hoping to be near the front at the start, so that way I would not have to worry about anything going wrong, such as a crash or anything like that. Normally when you're at the back of the peloton, if there's a crash all the way in the front, you're going to get caught up in the traffic behind. So it's usually a rule of thumb that if you want to do well, you need to be within the first 10 riders. Right now I'm just trying to get up to the front a little bit, so I'm just sprinting, going up the side here. Being that this race has just started, no one's really going terribly fast. I'm only doing about 30 to 35 kilometers an hour at this moment. The race will get faster as we settle into our positions. When we go through a transition, like right here, where it's very wet and then dry and then wet, and when you're crossing over a painted line, you really don't know what to expect because painted lines are like ice for a road bike. You may have tons of grip even though it's wet on the concrete, but once you pass over that line, you might just slip and go down, and that's it. Right now, a lot of people, they're jockeying to get to the very front. Like I said earlier, no one wants to be in the back. And if you look right up here, coming into this turn, the two riders in front of me right now, they just touched wheels. The rider on the right side, he's wearing a green and white jersey, he didn't anticipate the guy in red turning quicker than he did. And so their wheels touched, and normally when wheels touch, you go down. But we were very lucky that they didn't go down, because at that speed and in that corner, they would have taken out half the riders. My heart literally stopped because that was just scary moment. Right now, it's about 3 kilometers down out of a 20-kilometer race. Pace is just starting to pick up a little bit. People are starting to get a little bit settled in. I'm still trying to get up to the front. I'm probably right now in about 10th place or so. One thing I'd like to mention though is that this rider in the front, not the orange, but there's a green and white jersey up front. This is actually a high schooler. He's riding, in an adult class, so he's doing very well. He may be younger, but his muscles aren't as developed, so he's not as strong as we are, but he's at the very front and he's doing a really good job. And I'm not too sure where he placed at the end of the race, but for the most part, he was in the top 10 for the first lap. So right now we are coming to about, not even halfway really, it's more like 25% of the first lap. And this is the first major left-hand turn that we take. We take 2 major left-hand turns. And as a rule of thumb, I was told that out of every corner, you want to get up and sprint a little bit to get your speed back up. Well, by doing so, when I sprinted out of that corner, it shot me up into 2nd place. And so I'm sitting right behind the leader. At the time, I thought it was a great idea. Out in front of me, it's very clear. There's no chance of me going down due to an accident with another rider. The only thing that I have to worry about is this guy just going a bit so slow. And now that I'm looking back, looking at this video one more time, I'm thinking, I would have been fine sitting in maybe 5th place or 10th place right now, because we got so much more distance to cover before the actual sprint for the end comes. There's no point in being in the very front like this and just wasting all your energy. The rider in front of me, he pretty much was in the front the whole race until the very end. I think what he was trying to do is make a breakaway, but he never really put in that extra effort to snap the peloton in half. And in an open class like this, when there's someone willing to do all the work, breaking all the wind resistance and just pulling you along, there's no point in trying to pass them, because on a short race like this, it's all about saving your energy to the very end. When I look back at it now, I was using too much energy. I should have been sitting farther back. And right now we're doing about 40 to 45 kilometers an hour, which is, we're going pretty fast. And luckily this is early in the morning, just about 9:40, I believe. And so the wind hadn't started up yet. Normally in this part of Japan, usually in your afternoon, starting at about 1, the wind picks up and gets pretty strong. It's mostly because of the wind that's coming off of Mount Fuji. I'm very lucky today, actually. It's a nice, bright, clear day. The day before was overcast, cloudy, and just very, very cold. So today it's still cold, but it's a lot warmer than the day before. So we actually had a really good racing day. The guy that we passed was from a different class. He wasn't part of this race. He was, I believe, in the senior class, which is for riders 55 and older. And, kudos to him to still be racing at his age. Now, the bike I'm riding is a full carbon bike by GSA Team. This is made by one guy. He lives here in Japan. He's originally from Seattle, and he works with factories in China. And so I'm riding one of his bikes. He was very kind enough to sponsor me for this race, as well as I'm using the Shimano Di2 Ultegra group set. This Di2 is an electronic set, meaning that there's no cables from the shifters to the derailleurs, which change the gears. And by having an electric motor changing instead of using a cable, it's a lot more efficient. It's a lot more quick in the shift, as well as very smooth. So, it's like instant shifting. So the responsiveness is just so good that when I'm getting ready to sprint and I drop one gear, there's no wait time, no lag time whatsoever. It's just quick and responsive. I'm also using 50mm carbon wheels by GSA Team, and those are very, very aerodynamic. It just cuts through the wind, very nice. The two guys that I'm riding with right now, they're just using regular 30mm rims. Those are great for hill climbs, but on a flat stage like this, where it's more about aerodynamics rather than lightweight, those things just kind of get stuck in the air, I would say. And so I'm using considerably less amounts of energy to go at the same speed as they are, because they have to actually push through the wind a little bit harder than I do. So here we're passing another senior rider and a pace bike. If you remember, if you saw earlier, there was a guy in orange who sprinted ahead of us. He was actually going for a breakaway. He was hoping that maybe one or two riders would follow with him, so that way he could, hopefully break away farther from the main group of riders and go for the win. But nobody followed with him, so right now he's out there all by himself. Here in the peloton, we're not really worried because we still have about 15 kilometers left to go. And so that's a lot of time. That's about another 20 minutes of riding. So we're not worried. When you ride out by yourself like that, you're doing all the work by yourself. You're going to get tired quick. So unless you're going with a group of 3 or 4 people, it's not really worth jumping out in the front. So we're just taking our time. We're going to catch them in a few minutes or so. I've dropped back down to 5th. Wasn't really my choice. These guys just passed me. They made it a better line going through the curbs in the back there. But it doesn't really bother me too much. Staying farther back, less air resistance, so I can save my energy. Still near the front, so I don't have to worry about any crashes or anything like that. Our class was especially fast compared to the other X class. This is the Heat 2. We're passing lots of riders from Heat 1. Right here is actually a first little hill. My mistake was thinking that everyone was going to attack on this hill, so I ended up sprinting to the top of this little hill here, and I'm in the very front now, so I'm doing all the work, which is not what I wanted to be doing. It was definitely a rookie mistake. So right now, this is a constant hill. It doesn't really look like it on the camera, but we're doing it, it's about a 5% grade right now. This lasts for about 2 kilometers. 5% is not that challenging. It's just when you're going at race pace, it does start to wear down your legs quite a bit. And so I started to drop off and let this guy pass me, let a few guys pass me so I can just get back into the draft and just start saving up my energy again for the next lap. But these guys, very good at hills. I've noticed that Japanese riders compared to foreigners, they have small, light bodies, and so their power to weight ratio is a lot better than mine. And so on the uphill, they're a much stronger, much faster rider. But being that I have more muscle mass on a flat stage, if you're like on a time trial, I'm pretty confident that I'm a much stronger, faster rider. But for a hill as short and as, I guess you could say, shallow as this one, I stand a chance, at doing very well, placing at the end of the race. Anything steeper, and it probably would have slowed me down quite a bit. But 5% is nothing. And so we're still going uphill here. In about 500 meters or so, there's going to be a nice, wide left-hand turn. That is the last turn until the last 200 meters to the finish line where the sprint is. Right now we're just coming off the hill. This is getting flat. And this is where, in the next lap, the main race will be, the bunch sprint, which is at the end of the race. We passed the orange rider a couple seconds earlier. He was the guy that ran out front. He just got tired, and that's it. We caught up to him. I started slowing down at the top of this hill. Right now we're going through the start-finish line. And so I'm actually getting dropped a little bit. About 6 riders passed me before I start to recover, and we're heading downhill. So I can get back up to the front. This time around, it's a little bit more comfortable feeling. We all have a feeling for each other better than in the first lap. We know a little bit on how each other ride. so when we're taking the turns, it'll be a little bit safer than before. I definitely think that in the second lap, with my confidence growing, I definitely took a little bit more risk. I really stuck to the inside on some of the turns, which, you know, when you go on the inside of a turn, you're going to get through the turn quicker, but you're not going to have a very fast exit speed. I guess my preference is usually to be on the outside when going through a corner, because I like to have a high exit speed. It usually launches me near the front of the peloton. But here I'm staying on the inside, and you know I'm getting onto this white line here, which at this point right here is dry, but in other corners it's very wet. And so I was taking a very big risk of just hitting it the part that's just too slippery and losing it and just going down. Right now, the guys just behind me, they're really trying to get to the front, so they're trying to bunch up, and you can hear that you can hear some of the Japanese guys yelling at each other. You know, just not really angry yelling, just saying, "Hey, I'm here. Watch out." These guys were a lot more aggressive than I expected. Before this, I had mainly been doing club rides where it's not a race; it's just a fun ride with friends. And so when trying to get into the draft, you know, they just let you slide in. But here in this race, nobody would let you take anything for free. So these guys were very vocal, very aggressive. It was hard to keep your position because they just try to push you out. Right now, our group is kind of breaking apart. Before we're in a line formation, which is very, very fast. Now we're going through some traffic of some slower riders from the first class, and they are just getting in our way. So we're splitting up a little bit, and that's kind of just throwing off our whole pace and everything. Like right here, barely squeezed by this guy. He was starting to move out to the right, and I had to tell him when I'm coming through. This rider in the black, just to the right, this guy, he didn't really seem like a beginner. He seemed like he knew what he's doing. But he was very aggressive, almost to the point of being, kind of rude, you could say. Giving out a lot of orders, pushing people around. It wasn't very fun to race next to this guy. But, everyone's individual. They all have their own personalities. But once again, I'm on the shoulder of the road, which is probably a bad idea because that's where a lot of dirt and glass and whatnot, stuff just collects, and it's very easy to pop your tire there. So probably not a good idea on my part. But I was definitely trying to get around these first few guys, get back up into second place. During this race, I felt that was the best place for me to be. But the problem with that is I'm sitting on the outside of the peloton where I'm trying to pass, and so I'm actually doing a lot of work even though I'm sitting in the back, where I could be drafting like most of the other riders. Sitting on the inside like this is very scary for me because the riders on the outside, they tend to squeeze in when you're going through a turn. And so if you don't make it clear that you're there and you're not going to let them push you out, it gets very, very close. And it's scary because it's almost to the point where you feel like they're just going to push you off. And so this is that first left-hand turn. That's the 90 degrees. Once again, just going through it, sprinting out of the corner, just having a high exit speed. My exit speed is actually much faster than most other riders, mainly due to the aerodynamic bike. And it's so easy to power through. And with electronic shifters, just downshifting and just getting up out of the saddle and sprinting. my exit speed was much faster, and so I was actually pretty much coasting out of most corners. That way I wouldn't shoot out much of first position and have to do a lot of work. There goes that high schooler again. Just, strong kid. Definitely has a good future in cycling. However, this is unfortunately one of the last times we're going to see him. He burns himself out just sprinting up here. I think he was also going for a breakaway, but once again, he just didn't have that extra little push to get him out there. But once he's older, once he's a little bit bigger and stronger, I think he can do it. But right now, I just got squeezed. The guy in orange didn't give me enough space. I didn't want to run into this kid here. You know, he's in front, he is right away. So now I'm just kind of getting pushed out to the outside, and I'm having to do a lot of work because I'm not in this guy's draft. So I'm just going to try to get back there and just try to stay and save as much energy as possible. So we're getting down to the point where there's only about 10 kilometers left. People are trying to jockey for position, and the pace has picked up. Right about now, we are averaging 45 kilometers an hour. Definitely, you don't want to be out front doing all the work because 45 kilometers an hour by yourself is just very tiring. One thing I do regret about this race is I felt pretty good. I felt that I could have made an attack here. And there's still a few kilometers before the next left-hand turn that brings us to the hills. And I thought that I had the energy to try to make a breakaway myself. I mean, the first two that we saw were just not successful. But I definitely wanted to gain some ground on the peloton before the hills because these guys on the hills are much stronger than I am. I regret holding back. In the back of my mind, I kept thinking, don't use your energy now, don't use your energy now. But in retrospect, I think, I could have organized with a couple of guys, hey, let's get together, let's try to make a breakaway. But rookie mistake, again, just a rookie mistake. Next time, if I think I can do it, I won't be timid, I won't hesitate, I'll just go for it. Right now I'm just jockeying for position myself, getting back up to second place. Once again, this is the same guy that was leading all through the first lap. He's just burning energy, just staying up front there. I don't really know why he didn't drop back and take a break, but it's okay. I'll let him do all the work for me. That's right. Again, a couple riders coming up my side, trying to push me out of the draft. A lot more aggressive than I expected. Next race, I'll definitely be more aggressive myself. Let them push me around. With every attack that these guys are doing, the speed picks up more and more and more. At one point, we were flying at about 50 kilometers an hour until we took, I believe, the next curve. And it's just a crazy fast pace. Normally on a club ride, we're lucky if we get up to 45 kilometers, and that's just if we feel like it. Feel like seeing how fast we can actually go. Club ride, normally it's 30 to 35 kilometers an hour just to cruise around and have fun with your friends, but racing is definitely different. It's a lot more stressful, a lot faster pace. Definitely over the winter, I'll have to do a lot more training. You know, I thought my endurance was pretty good, and I can ride, 180 kilometers, 200 kilometers in one day. But doing this 20 kilometers at such a high pace was harder than anything I've ever done. I was keeping up pretty well, but I'm breathing really, really hard. My heart rate's up pretty high. So definitely over the winter, work on trying to get my heart rate to get lower. Better endurance, better stamina. That and more power. Definitely need to have more power going up the hills and recovering faster. So that way we get ready for the sprint at the end. Now as we're coming to the last left-hand turn, which brings us to the hill, it starts to get messy. I get boxed in a little bit, I get pushed back a little bit. I try sprinting up this hill again to get out front again, and this time try to keep that lead, if not make a little bit more of a lead. But I was a little bit more tired than I expected. So once again, this guy, the guy in black who had been sitting in the back, most of these guys who have been sitting in 10th, 11th place, they just come shooting out front. And this is what I should have been doing. I should have been sitting farther back, staying more in the back and just resting, instead of being in second place. So the pace is picked up again. We're doing about 45 kilometers an hour uphill. This is that 5% section. And we are flying towards the little bit steeper part. This guy on the left here, I have no idea what he was thinking, how he was trying to squeeze through. And he just basically, not even on the road, just on the shoulder, squeezes through and then kind of boxes me in. And that makes me have to slow down a little bit. Everyone is going to the front, getting ready for a bunch sprint. This is just a messy part of the race. I am definitely not a sprinter. I really don't like sprinting. I don't really think I'm a fast sprinter either. So I am doing my best just to keep up right now. We're going uphill and it's just getting faster and faster and faster. I can't even believe it. We're doing 50 kilometers an hour uphill, it seems like. Once again, I am getting boxed in here. And that was the last curve. We are now in the final straight to the very end of the race. There's about 300 meters left to the finish line. These guys are just taking off. I have no idea how they're doing it. We're just going uphill and they're just sprinting their brains out. Once again, these riders are just getting more and more aggressive. I'm getting pushed back. Here on the very left-hand side is the senior group. They were just taking up too much of the road, and that slowed down most of us. I got stuck behind this guy in red here. He wasn't a strong rider. He wasn't ever really doing too much work, and so being boxed in like that, I lost position. I could have been up in that first group there, probably get a better position than what I finished with, but no complaints. My first race, I think I did very well at the end here. Sprinting right now, my legs are burning, and I have never been so tired in my life. That last kilometer, just sprinting up the hill, and the burn in your legs. You can't even feel your legs until now when you're coasting and just resting. But it was very fun. I ended up 14th place out of 120. That's both heats combined. I was 2 seconds behind the leader, and I got through without crashes or anything like that, so this was definitely a very good race, a very good starting race for me. I was very happy with my finish, and I'm going to be back next year. I'm going to be doing the whole tour of Japan, and right now I'm just going to do some more training over the winter with Tim Smith, who is my sponsor for GSA, and yeah, make some more videos next year and let you guys know how it goes.